Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Gallic Gun Toys. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video, and today we're reviewing this beautiful Ichiban Kuji Last Prize Shenron. Alright, well let's just jump straight into it, shall we guys? Now, I do apologise for the late review. I did get this in a couple weeks ago and I was just feeling a bit burnt out, so I needed to take a little bit of a break before I jumped back into reviews and filming and all that. But that's given me time to appreciate this piece and how amazing it really is. Guys, this guy is just something special. He really is just absolutely flawless and amazing in so many ways. Maybe not flawless. I have seen a lot of people repaint this figure and it looks like nothing else, and just really kind of puts this to shame, which is surprising because, as you can see, the level of quality and detail is quite amazing. So yeah, just look at all that beautiful quality we've got going on there, guys. He takes up a good chunk of my review stand, so I am in quite an awkward spot just even kind of doing this, so I do apologise if we're not at the same level of quality of showing you everything as we usually are, just because of the size and how far I've got to have him away from the camera. But yeah, the space is fairly sturdy. All in all, he is pretty heavy. Maybe not as heavy as the King Cluster Broly, but still really, really heavy. Possibly about the same. So the only real assembly you have to do to this guy is this little stand here, and the best way to get that in is to basically slide the end bit in here, peg it into the hole, and sort of line it up with that at the same time, and it'll go in. It's a lot simpler than it looks. It just looks like a real pain in the ass. It is kind of a pain in the ass at first, but once you kind of figure it out, you're good. And of course, the whiskers here, you do have to assemble them, but that's no big issue, and they do fit kind of perfectly, so it's kind of hard to get it wrong. If you get it wrong like I did the first time, you'd be able to tell pretty easily that they're in the wrong pegs, just by the way they look, like they're nice and symmetrical and sort of even to some degree here, whereas obviously if you have them the other way, they're not going to be quite like that, so it's a lot more noticeable. But overall, colour is pretty good. I wouldn't have minded a more vibrant colour here. Got a bit of paint bleed sort of going on here, so some of the red bleeding onto the yellow. Nothing major though. Any sort of imperfections on this or quality control issues is really minor stuff, like a bit of scuffing down there, but other than that, you know, just real minor stuff, guys. It's really good. Like, there's a bit of a seam, like a bit where it's just not quite painted or not quite pegged properly before it's been glued, but still pretty impressive, and I can't really complain about that. My only real gripe with this guy, with the sculpt and the shading and the paint and all that, is I just wish there was more in the way of line work and shading. Obviously, I could get John to do that sometime in the future. I'm not really about repainting original figures unless I have two of them. I'm just a bit OCD like that. I don't like to change an original figure without a really good cause, and I do really dig this, but I think it does fall down a bit. Just it could have just used a bit more shading. But anyway, let's get to a height breakdown and then we will do some comparisons. Hey guys, so for size, he is actually bigger than my ruler, but he is just a little bit under 13 inches tall, which definitely makes him one of the larger, most impressive Ichiban Kuji Last Prizes. Here he is in a comparison with the Grandista Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black. For your smaller figures, here he is in a comparison with the Creator X Creator Bardock that we recently reviewed on the channel. And here he is with the Maxmatic 4 Super Saiyan Son Goku that we are yet to review. But don't worry, the review for this Goku will not be far behind Shenron here. Okay, so that does it for paint, sculpt, comparisons, and size, guys. Now to final thoughts. Now my final thoughts is, it is a really, really beautiful piece. I do have a lot of love for it. I think it's very impressive for the weight, the size, the sculpt. I just feel they could have done a little bit more when it came to the shading, especially here. You know, in this yellow fleshy bit of his chest. I think that would have really benefited from a nice wash or just a little bit of shading in there. But overall, that is my only real gripe about the figure, and I think it is pretty damn amazing. Now for final score, I think I'm going to give this guy a 9. 9 out of 10. It would be a perfect 10 if it wasn't for the shading. Because, like I said, guys, there's a lot of people that have just made this look absolutely amazing by just doing a bit of line work or a bit of shading work to it, and it just looks phenomenal with that extra bit of work. So I'm going to give this guy a 9 because it's amazing, but it could have been done a little bit better. Some of you might think that's a little bit harsh, some of you might think that's overly nice and think I'm being a little bit too generous, but I think a 9 is fair all around, and I think it's worth only deducting 1 point for the fact that they didn't really shade it, because the overall figure itself, the sculpt, the presence, the size, everything else is there. They just fell down on the shading, which is not uncommon with pieces like this, so I'm willing to let that slide with only a point, and if it wasn't for that, it'd be a perfect 10 out of 10. Yeah, 9 for me, guys. Really recommend picking it up if you can find it. I've seen it bouncing around a bit cheaper on the internet now, but just make sure you're getting from a legitimate seller, because I have heard there are bootlegs of this going around now, so just make sure that the seller you're buying from is legitimate and has legitimate feedback. Alright, fellow collectors, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like down below. If you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button right there. Don't forget, you can also follow me over on Facebook and Instagram at GalletGunToys to connect with me there too. Thank you as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.